Hey guys, welcome to our channel, Disturbed South, a channel focused on crimes within South Africa that does not get a lot of coverage worldwide, and we do think it needs to be more publicized. My name is Rian.
And I'm Rian, his mom.
And we will be dealing with recent cases as well as cases from years back. So today's case is known as the Krugersdorp murders, and this started in July of 2012.
Yes, and it all started in Besana Flats in Krugersdorp. And Cecilia Steyn, it all began with her. And she was a member of the Overcomers Through Christ Church. And she told Ria Groenewald, who was the head of this church, that she exited from a satanic church. And now she needed constant prayers to help her exit the church fully, and also protect her because she claimed that they wanted to take her soul. And then she even, I don't know how she did it, but she even coughed up blood as proof that the satanic church wanted to take her soul.
And that's never a good thing when anyone gets involved in Satanism or anything like that. There's always some sort of consequence.
Absolutely. And I also think, although the group's name was ELECTUS PER DEUS, the Latin for chosen by God, I personally think all of these 11 murders that happened was through Satan's
Handiwork.
And you have to be possessed by Satan to commit these heinous crimes that they committed. It was absolutely, sometimes while I was researching these murders, I was thinking to myself, how can any human being commit such crimes? The blood and gore. This was real blood and gore.
And have no remorse at the end of the day.
No, they were, even when they were in court, while they were being prosecuted, they were being, as Miranda said, Miranda Steyn, would you like me to stick out my tongue for you? That coming from the school teacher, I think.
And that's sick. I mean, that's a person that parents trusted to take care of the children,
yes.
While they were working. And you never know the type of people. I mean, it doesn't matter what you look like, whether you are attractive or not. Evil comes in all shapes and forms.
Yes, and well, it started with Cecilia Steyn, and there are some contradicting videos which you can go and have a look at on YouTube.
Very disturbing, by the way, so
Yeah.
do so at your own discretion.
Absolutely. Her parents in one video claimed that she never gave them any problems. She didn't study, but she always passed with distinctions. Then other people claim she was a problem child from the beginning.
And there's always these different types of stories going around. It actually takes me back to one specific guy that we'll also do a story about. Some people said he was this, example of a person in school. Other people said no, that was not the case. He was a bully, He was looking for trouble on a regular basis. So there's always so many different stories, and I think it makes it so difficult to actually get the proper facts. But we will try to be as accurate as possible and keep an open mind.
Absolutely. I personally think that we can go with the one where Cecilia Steyn is being perceived as a troublesome, she was a troublesome, disturbed child. I also read that she used to, if you have a sickness, then her sickness was double as serious as what your sickness is. if something happened to you, something much more troublesome or tragically happened to her. And she was also a compulsive liar. So when you look at the events that took place during all these murders between 2012 and 2016, then I can believe that she was the person that people made her out to be. And
all the facts are there. We are actually tending towards what people are saying about her being a troublesome person.
yes, absolutely. And then when she got to the church of the overcomers through Christ, that was run by Ria Groenewald, as I said, she told her that she needed constant prayers, and they were trying to steal her soul. She was even coughing up blood to demonstrate how bad it was. But then, unfortunately, Ria Groenewald found out that she was lying about all of this. And when Cecilia realized this, then what they did was they threw petrol bombs at churchgoers' cars. Yes,
Wow.
yes, they did. They also threw animal intestines on churchgoers' cars, and they also put notes on the churchgoers' cars' windows, warning them that they will pay with their lives. So Ria Groenewald wasn't prepared to set her own life as well as church members' lives in danger, so she fled. And then they targeted two church members also, Joyce and Natasha. They were neighbors of each other as well as neighbors of Cecilia Steyn. And then they convinced Zak Valentine. He was working for Discovery at the time. They convinced him to murder the two women. Joyce Boonzai was in her 60s. Natasha was somewhere, I think she was 33. And what they did when they when they went into Joyce Boonzai's house, well, they forced her to write Natasha a note and tell her to come and see her very urgently. So
used that as a lure, basically.
Yes, yes. And what they did, they put the note on Natasha's, under her
Windscreen wiper.
Yeah, yeah. And she was very concerned when she got the note.
Like anyone would be.
Yes. And what is so sad and tragic, they murdered Joyce Boonzai, and when Natasha entered Joyce's apartment, she was... It's absolutely... I can't even imagine. She was hit over the head, and it happened so quickly, and then she was stabbed. When the police came there, they still found the note. She was so concerned for Joyce that she didn't even close her car's doors. She still had the note in her hand when the police found her corpse.
That's how concerned she was and worried.
Yes. So that was a very gruesome death for both of them.
Okay. So in August 2012, a week after the murders of Natasha and Joyce, the murders continued.
And then the murder started again with the murder of Reginald Ben Dixon, 75 years old, and he was a pastor, a former pastor of Overcomers Through Christ. They killed him in his home, hitting him with an axe, and he was stabbed multiple times. And what they even did after that, they took a piece of his brain matter and they wrapped it in a piece of paper with a note, and they sent it to Ria Groenewald. And on the note, they told her, now you can have a piece of him.
That's gross, to say the least.
That is very gross.
That's a really graphic thing to do in the first place. I mean, it takes a really sick person to do that.
And you can't have any conscience doing that. I can't even imagine going through someone's brain matter, wrapping it in a piece of paper, and then sending it to someone else with a note. Now you can have a piece of him. That is something that I can't comprehend.
That's really disturbing when you go into that much gore and you feel nothing.
So I think now you can understand why I absolutely believe these murders were also inspired by Satan. But what gets to me is the fact that they used, that per deus electus, Latin for chosen by God.
And I mean, in our opinion, it actually sounds really silly. I think they tried to come across as these intimidating group, but actually they just sound like idiots.
Absolutely. And when the judge sentenced them, he also told them, your name should have actually been elected by Lucifer. And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the one thing. I don't know where God comes into this name at all. Because obviously, she came from a satanic group. So why use God as inspiration for your group name? It doesn't make sense.
I think it's because most people, when God is involved and God's name is used to try and convince people to your own, not always so divine beliefs and what you want to do, that's maybe the easiest way to do it. And
or maybe Lucifer might be their God. They might be referring to that.
Well, we will never know. So
Maybe.
our God will always, be used as a smokescreen for the most horrific crimes and things that people are capable of.
And that's the thing about Satanists. Lucifer is their God. They even call him that. So I think that's the disturbing part when it comes to this case.
And in the Krugersdorp murders, there is always a reference to cult murders. So cult tells you something. And then the most horrific killing took place. After the killing of Pastor Dixon, Zach Valentine's wife, Michaela, she became very uncomfortable with this whole situation and the killings, etc. And for me, she was actually a very attractive girl. When I looked at their wedding pictures, everything looked so normal. That's
usually the thing. It comes across as normal.
Yeah.
You look at something, it looks normal. Like we said before, doesn't matter what it looks like. It's what's actually, in people's darkest memories or desires that comes to light.
I always say, human beings are very dark.
Oh yes, doesn't matter what you look like. Keep that in mind.
And then this Zach, he started to have conversations with Miranda and Marcel, telling them that he was also believing that his wife Michaela was cheating on him. And, he also told them that she was becoming uncomfortable with the whole murdering of people and robbing people, etc. So then he slipped some sleeping pills apparently into her coffee, and Miranda and her daughter Marcel came in, and that was the most gruesome scene the police have ever seen in their lives, because she was stabbed close to 60 times. Blood and intestines were splattered on the ceiling of her home. And so I can't, how can a man, his own wife, get people to kill her in such a gruesome and horrible, gory way?
Exactly, and that's someone you're supposed to love. And the thing is about stabbing that a lot of people don't know. It doesn't take 1 or 2 stabs. People doesn't die instantly from 1 or 2, 3, even 4. It usually takes some time to kill someone. I've seen a couple of cases, it took over 60 times to kill a person. And for them to continue, determined to kill a person, that says enough.
Well, Miranda, she confessed in court that she can't remember that it was 60 times. She only stabbed her until she stopped breathing.
That's really disturbing.
Now, I was wondering to myself, do you really, while stabbing a person, do you really stop and just, are you still breathing?
There's
Not.
no way of justifying what she did.
Yeah. And then the killing stopped for about 3 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing about serial killers and spree killers. So serial killers does it over a period of time, you know, so there is a certain amount of time between killings, whereas a spree killer does in a really short time. So these were proper serial killers.
And the reason why the killing started again after 3 years was solely for the purpose of money. Zach Valentine, he had quite a few rands, I believe, millions of rands, which they all used, and I mean, money only goes so far. So after 3 years, they realized, okay, we don't have any money anymore, so what are we going to do now? Because also, Cecilia Steyn, she was also taking money from the members of ELECTUS PER DEUS under the pretension of supporting a so-called orphanage in America. Listen to this one. Listen to this one.
Of all things to choose an orphanage. I mean, really.
Orphanage in America, where people's firstborn babies were sent, because if they didn't send them there, their firstborn babies would have been used as offerings to Satan. So that was what this orphanage in America's purpose was for. And Cecilia was donating to them every year. But that orphanage doesn't exist at all.
She made all of it up.
She just, yes, made all of it up just so that she can get some money. And another disturbing thing that it's still bothering me, her husband was a policeman, but apparently he was never at home when the members of the ELECTUS PER DEUS were gathering, and they usually talked to her. That sounds very funny. They talked to her through her bedroom window.
Creepy.
Very creepy. And if they didn't talk to her through her bedroom window, she will allow them into her home or into the flat.
I'm assuming when the husband isn't at home.
Yes, and she took them immediately through to her bedroom. And then Miranda was sitting there, Miranda Steyn, Cecilia Steyn, and then Miranda Steyn's two children, LaRue Steyn and Marcel Steyn. They would sit on the floor like two obedient little dogs or something. That was all the, that came out in the court proceedings. All these weird things that already your mind can make up a lot of pictures surrounding that. And also Miranda, she started to get this, well, apparently she fell in love with Cecilia Steyn.
Okay.
Yeah, she fell in love with her.
Awkward.
And she would do anything for Cecilia. Anything, doesn't matter what. She would have done anything for Cecilia.
In my opinion, there's only so much you can do for love, but if it comes to killing someone or anything like that, it's no. I don't know if you can call that love. More of an obsession, if you ask me.
Well, they said she had an obsession with Cecilia.
Here we go.
And also because Miranda's father, he was a psychologist, and through him, she learned a lot about people's behavior, and she could read people apparently quite well. And that's why she was capable of convincing people and even participating in people's killings,
And that's the thing about a cult, is especially the leader. they are really good at manipulating people.
And they're always not directly involved in the killings, which was in fact in Cecilia Steyn's also the case. She wasn't ever present in the murders.
No, that's all for these followers. They do the dirty work or the dirty job, and the leaders, they just sit back and give all the orders.
No, and she was definitely instigating it. So she was definitely the ringleader. And Mirinda, because she could read people very well, she was the perfect instrument to have people killed, because I'm sure she could have talked people into believing her.
Perfect salesperson, by the way.
And that's why they killed. They killed a lot of salesperson in the process. Mirinda.
She should have been in
Yes.
sales.
But she managed to, and Zach, working as a salesperson, they were very successful into tricking people into believing their motives, and then it was
And
easy
that
to
it's
kill
the
them.
right thing to do. I mean, I think that's the thing they are the best at, is
Yeah.
making people believe it's the right thing to do.
But the strange thing for me is that Mirinda was, they asked learners as well as teachers in the school where she was teaching. She was teaching English. And
A school teacher, I just can't get over that
yeah,
fact.
yeah, that's what's also.
That's the one thing about this case. When my mom told me about this in the first place, and when we decided to, do our first video about this, a school teacher. And I'm just thinking to myself, what were the parents thinking when all of this came out? Leaving your child in the care of this disgusting piece of human being, and doing all of, or basically leading a group of killers or cults. What were they thinking at the end of the day?
Well, they described her as being the weird one, always kept to herself. Most of the times, during breaks or so, she closed the door of the classroom, and she even kept ammunition in her classroom. So, and another thing, in court it was mentioned that she had this uncanny resemblance to Daisy de Melker.
Which we will do a video of. She's one of South Africa's most infamous serial killers. I think it's a really interesting story. I remember when we were small, my mom told us about Daisy de Melker, so we will definitely be doing a video about her.
So, and yeah, we will also do something about Maria Reder. No relation to me.
Please.
My maiden name is Reder. No relation to me, just so you know.
In November 2015, the next set of murders took place.
Yes, that's when John Barnard, he came on board of ELECTUS PER DEUS, and he convinced them that he knew a couple, Peter and Joan Myers, and according to him, they had millions of rands stashed in their home. And very sadly, they didn't have millions of rands stashed in their home.
It was all an illusion.
Yes, and out of anger, Zach Valentine stabbed the couple to death. So then 2 weeks after that, the next murder took place, Jared Jackson.
Which was in December 2015.
Yes. And that was because they wanted to try and, that was a life insurance fraud. Jared Jackson looked a lot like Zach Valentine. So what they did is they lured him into Zach Valentine's car. They went for a drive. He was strangled and then burnt in Zach Valentine's car.
And from what we can understand, when you strangle someone, that is a long process, and it's a very intimate process to murder someone. It actually takes quite a while to strangle someone to death. So the amount of hatred you must have towards someone to strangle them to death is, I don't know, it's unexplainable.
And you know what? They also knew his girlfriend, his fiancée actually. And she was asking them, what do you know where Jared is? And Cecilia Steyn, she told her,
Dear
"No,
Cecilia,
I think he just left you for another woman." The stories they made up to tell her, and they knew exactly what happened to Jared. So that's another very, very, very sad turn in this whole bizarre, I will say, occult murders that took place, because you really have to be possessed by Satan to be capable of doing the things that they did. I really think so.
Yeah, there's a lot of words I really badly want to use to describe Marinda,
Yes.
but unfortunately we can't do that.
Not long after that, in January 2016, Glenn McGregor, he was a tax consultant. I think he was from Randfontein. He was strangled, and he was put in the bath, because they thought actually that when they put him in the bath, the forensics won't be able to determine the time of death. I don't know how they...
And I mean, especially for this dates, when it comes to forensic evidence, they are advanced. How these people thought they would not pick it up, I do not understand. Actually, it shows, the level of intelligence these people had.
But I think maybe they became panicky as well. If you become panicked, you can't think straight.
Yeah,
so I
you
think
can't think rationally.
They just try to have straw holes to try and cover their
tracks.
Yes. But it didn't work.
Luckily.
Yes. May 2016. Then they had another broker, Anthony Schofield. And they also strangled him, and they've just dumped him in his car's boot, which was just... I don't know how people really, how they think and how they reason.
And what's with the strangulation? I mean, like we mentioned, literally a few minutes ago, what a certain way it is of killing someone. But it seems like with the last couple of murders, they went for strangulation.
Most of the murders were strangulation. And if it wasn't strangulation, it was in the most horrific ways, gory ways, by axing people, stabbing them, what they did to Michaela.
You must have absolutely no conscience to do what these people did.
But they did it.
And I feel nothing, I can tell you now, up until today.
And the last murders were especially driven, because they needed money.
That's usually the main motive.
Yeah. So, and then they had also a victim, which they shot in the stomach. And what they told him is, we can take you to hospital, but you first have to give us your bank card's PIN number. Which he did, but they still killed him. Anyway, they still killed him.
Any desperate person would do anything, even if there's a glimpse of hope to survive.
Yeah.
But obviously there wasn't, there never is. But this guy tried it. Unfortunately for him, he did lose his life.
But I think that is horrible.
And
shooting someone in the stomach and then telling that person, well, give us your card's number, PIN number, and maybe we'll take you to hospital.
All these false promises.
Which they knew they wouldn't do.
I think the victims at the end of the day, we can't start to imagine what was going through their minds at this stage.
And then the last victim, she was an estate agent. Her body was found in a river or a stream more, near Randfontein. She was also lured on the pretenses of buying a house or something, and she was murdered and just left like a bag of. Well, she was. I think what I read was her body was dumped, placed in a black bag, and then just thrown into a stream nearby Randfontein, like she was
nothing.
Trash.
There's no remorse
Even
whatsoever.
the policemen were very shocked when they found her.
And the thing is, I think what most people in, the police see, we can't even imagine, actually experiencing ourselves without it having an effect in such a negative way and affecting you where you actually think you're going to go insane. So I don't know how they do that, but all my respect to them.
Yes, I've seen videos where the policemen were telling people what they saw, what it did to them, and maybe I think they must also maybe from time to time go for some counseling or something, because I know I would have needed it.
Yeah, I think no normal person can see what they see and not need help.
And a lot of innocent people lost their lives.
And it's always the innocent people.
Yes, unfortunately. Leroux and Marcel Steyn, they were arrested a few weeks after all these murders took place. Leroux gave them quite an account of all the murders and why it was committed.
So he confessed?
Yes, he absolutely confessed. Marcel was 14 at the time when she committed the first murder.
14? Wow!
Yep.
I mean, I was not thinking about murder when I was 14.
Yes. And the saddest of the whole thing is that she passed matric with 6 distinctions. She was even. She was accepted to go and study medicine. Now she's going to have to do it, study something in jail or something, I don't know. But that's very tragic and sad that such a clever and gifted person
committed such heinous crimes. And
Yes.
the thing is, especially within our country, once you've got a criminal record, it's really difficult to find a job. It doesn't matter what qualifications you have, finding a job is nearly impossible.
And then they arrested Zach Valentine, Cecilia Steyn,
Thank goodness.
Yep.
She's evil.
and John Barnard. He was
I think
also.
Miranda is the definition of evil, if you ask me.
Yes, well, that's why she was this. She had this connection. Well, she had this look-alike like Daisy de Malka, because I think Daisy de Malka was also the definition of evil.
Let's just call it Daisy de Malka.
Yeah. And well, they were all charged on 11 counts of murder. They all received hundreds and hundreds of years jail sentences. Miranda will never ever see her children again. They will never see their mother again. The same goes for Cecilia Steyn. She also has 2 children out of a previous marriage. I think they were 16 and 17. She will never see them. So this is a very sad outcome.
It brings into question, did they actually love their children? If she knew, or if they knew by doing this, they would never see their own children again?
Miranda, her son Leroux, he felt his mother never loved him the same as she did Marcel. So he already had this thing,
It
So
might be an illusion from what I can gather.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all in his head, but once they convince themselves of one thing, there's nothing else that's gonna basically change their minds.
So that's all I can say, that he thought that his mother loved Marcel more than she loved him.
So he needed approval, basically.
I think so, yeah. You're quite right. He needed approval by doing the stuff that he did.
And that's sad.
Yes, and that's things that really happens every day. We just don't know all of them.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't even know about this, you know? And I'm South African, obviously. I didn't even know about this. I mean, and I think that's the main aim why we started this channel, is to make people more aware of all the crimes or the horrific crimes happening within our country. And not only fellow South Africans, but worldwide as well. The crimes doesn't only happen in the well-known countries. It happens here as well. If not, you know, the crimes here might be even worse. I mean, I think the thing that reaches the audience the most worldwide is the farm murders, but there's so much more going on here.
Yes, and what really I was taken aback when I realized we were staying next door to Krugersdorp at the time of the murders.
Which is Redeport.
Yes, and
that's where I'm currently staying.
everything seemed just normal, you know. No one is capable of murder or torture.
Well, that's what you
anything.
think. You think by looking at the person, well, that person's not capable of that. But that's one thing we've learned. It doesn't matter what a person looks like. You never know what they're capable of.
Yes, very true.
But yeah, thank you so much for watching our very first video on Disturb the South. There will be a lot more coming. Like we said, there are so many stories we want to cover. The list is endless, so expect a lot more videos. But thank you guys so much for watching Disturb South.
Thanks from me a lot as well.
And we will see you guys in our next
very
video.
soon.